Okay, everyone, so this is my review of episode 9 of The Handmaid's Tale. This was directed by Elisabeth Moss again, but this time written by Eric Tuchman and Ali Monroe. I am going to break my review into 3 parts, as this episode is broken down into 3 parts. First, we'll start with Lydia, Janine, and Esther's story. Then we'll go to the Waterfords, and we'll finish off with June. So we see now Esther, aka Mrs. Keys, we haven't seen in a while. She's a handmaid, as is Janine again, and what's interesting is this scene opens up with Lydia looking at this tray, right, where the fork is askew, the food is not eaten, and this is something that's a no-no, right? But what it's setting up is that Esther is this rebellious character. Again, she's also under the influence of June, right, as Lydia will even reference, where she's like, it's so hard to be good when you have such a bad example. And what's fascinating about this is that with Janine watching, it's like Janine's watching a reflection of herself when she first met Aunt Lydia in season 1. It was the same way Janine was acting, right? And then she had her eye taken out because of it. So it makes so much sense, too, that Janine would be the character that would know how to deal with these situations the best and how to avoid consequences like that. Now, what was really impressive to me was this shot we got that, like the testimony shot, it slowly starts on this really wide shot and slowly moves in, no cuts, one shot to end on a close-up of Lydia. And this is the scene where it looks like almost the Last Supper, and I love that it's lit with just candlelight here and a little light coming through the window, but it's very natural, and I think that's always the best-looking shots in The Handmaid's Tale and kind of fits the world really well. It's so interesting, though, to me every time we see, like, how the aunts operate and what they do in their time, you know, with them gossiping and the way they're eating at this table. It kind of just gives me that same, like, thrill when I see at, like, a calendar about nuns dancing. It's just, like, this interesting thing to see what these aunts do in their free time. But you see Aunt Ruth and the other aunt on the side of Lydia are talking about how they should discipline Esther and to make her behave, and one's suggesting a feeding tube with restraints, and the other's just saying to cut out her tongue, and this is what, you know, sets Janine off. She can't handle hearing this anymore. But it's the difference in Lydia we're slowly seeing, where she in the past would probably jump to just taking a tongue out, but that's not what she's doing here. And what even shows more of Lydia's growth here, which I really like to see, because as I've said, it's taken a little long to get to, like, more of a redemption arc with her, but it's getting there. And her having now Aunt Ruth say, you know, she is useful, she's a fruitful girl, and them suggesting her even going to the breeding colonies where they originally wanted her to go. So that already shows you the change here that I don't think was set up great last episode, where it just jumped to Janine saying, don't make me a handmaid again. Maybe they should have had Lydia mention to Janine in that episode, the breeding colonies, and then we could see right away that she's already made a progressive choice to have Janine be a handmaid and not go there. So there is some change in Lydia going on, and the person to affect her the most to change is Janine. And even when Aunt Ruth mentions her troubled past and is like, what commander would want her, that really ticks Lydia off, and it shows again how much she cares about Janine, but how much her love for Janine will slowly start, especially in this episode, to change the wheels on how Lydia thinks about things. So I really love this scene, right, because it shows Lydia in her office, and she's looking at households for Janine. She got Janine's picture, and there's like this commander and his wife there, the Davis couple, but she's like, you'll be all right, dear, I'll take care of you. But what Janine does is she informs Lydia of Esther's past, her troubled past, how Esther was abused not just by her commander, but by multiple men on this farm, and to kind of give her a break here. But this is where Janine's growth as a character comes, and this has been set up all season, right, where she wants to be taken seriously, to show she's smart, that she is useful, and this is when she saves the day by suggesting that someone, meaning her, safely tell Esther what would happen if she doesn't obey, instead of jumping to punishment. And this will slowly start to get Lydia to change in how she views how to correct handmaids. Because she's like, I'll put Esther's correction on hold for now. And then Lydia suggests Janine to go bring her breakfast, giving Janine the shot now, giving a chance at Janine's way. So it's just brilliant because Janine is seeing through Lydia's cracks. And it's not Janine being old Janine. Don't be fooled by that. There is a smarter play going on with Janine. Her character has grown to get here, and it's been earned brilliantly from that episode of Milk. And this is the point of the review I start really sweating because it's 93 degrees in New York today, and I am wearing this heavy trench coat. So if you can, please give a like, subscribe, you know, become a member, maybe tip if you're watching on the live stream. Praise be. Okay, but what I brilliantly loved about the directing, Elisabeth Moss here, and how it was a little harder in her directing last episode. This episode is completely different how she does it. She's giving all these creative shots that have meaning, visual meaning, but also a feel. And I think one of my favorite shots, it's so simple but amazing, was just Janine walking through this hallway to Esther alone, right? And it's like that horror vibe. And it's amazing how great this works, Janine being away from June, because it's the first time we're seeing Janine without someone kind of guiding her and having to step up for herself and be a leader herself. So that was like a real moment, I felt, where she's like, okay, she knows this is like, you know, little Janine now becoming this brave woman, which is awesome. And I love that she's in these circumstances by herself. It's really fascinating. And she's running on her own instinct, her own plan, no one else's. But I love now when she gets in the room with Esther, you know, this is a callback to, I'm pretty sure it was season 2, when June is in the white outfit. She's chained to that pole, and it's literally shot the same lighting. So again, great job, Elisabeth Moss, getting that to reflect perfectly. And I love Esther keeps asking about June, like, where's June? You know, and Janine's like, forget June. Like, this is totally her Brady Bunch, Marsha. That's like all she hears about. She's sick of it. Like, she's not here. We're here, and you have to take care of yourself now. I love this. Again, showing a handmaid now kind of take things on their own. And it's a different approach than June would take. So it's the Janine approach, right? And to me, it's very smart. She knows how to play the game. And she's giving Esther truth. Like, they are not going to let you die. They will keep hurting you again and again until you do what they say. That is their job. And great shot choice by Elisabeth Moss here, because she is just keeping close-ups on Esther, but keeping Janine mostly in medium shots, because again, the weight of the emotional impact in the scene is happening on Esther. And first, too, Esther kind of accuses Janine in a way of, like, being their puppet. But again, don't be fooled by that. Like, this isn't Janine doing that. Janine's just getting smart. And she's like, when you do eat, I'll tell Aunt Lydia, and she'll let you go outside. It's a really nice day. I thought this was a really just touching moment, and, like, I don't know why, it just works so well for me. And maybe that's also because we got Madeline Brewer and McKenna Grace, both fabulous actresses here. But it's just showing you that hope that Janine can give as a leader. And I love this tracking shot now of Janine and Esther coming down the hallway. And there's this eerie music playing. And the best part of Madeline Brewer's acting here is the little things, right? Keeping in character as Janine. And that's when Esther's saying what she needs to say to Lydia, and like Janine's mouthing the words to her, even though Esther's got it. You know, I just love that. And how excited Janine is because she's doing something big here. But there's a very important reaction shot here after Aunt Lydia kisses Janine and thanks her and says, you're the best. That, you know, this aunt is like, okay, she's seeing Lydia's softening up. And that's a no-no for the aunts. But with the light on Lydia here, you know, it's her seeing through Janine that there's another way to correct behavior of a bad handmaid instead of just actually taking somebody's eye out. So slowly but surely, Lydia's becoming a little better of a person, but it's showing you the effect someone like Janine, and probably only Janine, could have on someone like Aunt Lydia. Maybe Aunt Lydia doesn't change through the ways of June, but through someone like Janine. So I loved everything with Janine here and Lydia and Esther. It moved the plot along, and it progressed all of their characters. And it sets up some really interesting stuff. So I really like that. So let's switch over to the Waterfords now. So we see the most depressing baby shower ever with Serena and Fred. So there's these little moments I just laugh at Fred. It's like ridiculous. And I like they're kind of leaning into that. Even when he's like all excited about like this mini commander outfit someone got them. But he's saying how they're inspiring the people now. They're a beacon of hope. And he's giving her this card, and she's like, oh, I can read this now that nobody's watching. So Serena's got the big dig there. And Fred's like, oh, you know, I've made mistakes in the past. But he then goes so far as to Serena to write a book again, which is crazy, too. I like they're kind of going with that. And again, any stuff relating to Serena's past is so interesting to me. You know, I think Serena still is the most interesting character on the show, and they have much they can do with her. So it's interesting, is the next scene we see Serena is already starting to write. You know, and this is going to have a big impact, especially as we saw those followers outside. And it seems like also they're setting up something that's not totally Gilead with the Waterfords, but something that's still bad, that's somewhere, you know, it's a different philosophy, because Fred's going to have to adjust. I don't want to get too into this because this is more theory, but I do have my theories about that, but we'll get to that. But what's crazy is we get a visit from Mrs. Putnam here, Naomi. I mean, I forgot she was on the show. She's a great actress. It was good to see her. So they justify, though, you know, the Putnams being able to visit, that Serena's due date's approaching, and that's how they got in. So be it. It's a little ridiculous, but I can get past it. The best line of the episode, and the most clever line maybe of the whole season, is when Serena asks Mrs. Putnam about Angela and how she's doing. And she's like, she has an issue with biting, but maybe that's genetic. What a great line. It's hysterical because that's Janine's baby, and she is the one who bit Mrs. Putnam. And we get a nice rack focus shot of Mrs. Putnam noticing Serena writing, which is huge. huge. So this is where stuff gets really juicy, where Mrs. Putnam is giving her all these gifts from the other wives, and Serena's like pulled back by this because it's like, she's like, I thought, people would see me as a traitor. Miss Putnam's like, oh, you do what you had to do for the baby. And she suggests that if this ordeal isn't over by the time the baby's born, that they could take care of the baby in her house and that it belongs back in Gilead. This is when like that Serena horror music kicks in. She doesn't like to hear this. And she's like, well, I expect to be released and have a fresh start by the time that happens. And again, she's also right, Serena, where she's like, you might say the wives are cool with this, but I don't think the commanders are down for me coming back there. Like, there will be some consequences. But Miss Putnam's like, nonsense, you're going to return as a hero. Kind of like what Fred was saying. But again, as Serena is making a guess about how the commanders will react to her and what she's done, you get a good hint that she's right, because then it cuts to this scene with Fred talking to Warren, and he's got a totally different tone. And you see how pissed Fred is, where he's like, has there been any negotiation on my behalf? Like exchanging a prisoner? And, Putnam's basically saying that they'd rather not risk other kidnappings and other bad things happening for Gilead to save Fred. And this is complete betrayal for Fred. This is what he values the most, his honor in the Gilead system and all the work he's done. And he's like, and you guys are just leaving me behind, like not even fighting for me. So it's another great written character moment for Fred and how his character can now start maybe changing, good or bad, probably worse, but it's change. This is big for him. And just for icing on the top for Mr. Putnam, just to say, we'll keep you in our thoughts and prayers, which is like, yeah, we're not doing anything. So crazy. I like they went that route with this. And then wrapping up the Waterford story in this episode, right? You have Fred and Serena in this chapel, and he's like, it's like they've erased me, left me here to rot. Our son's freedom will be what sustains me. And then Serena's like, they could take him away. Gilead could come for our son, and a mother alone, they think the baby belongs to the state, which is so true. That's how definitely Gilead would think. And then she says something I'm sure the fans love to hear, where she's like, they would send me to the colonies. They could make me a handmaid. This has been something people have been dying to see and have been predicting on the Reddit for a while. Just probably people hearing that got all excited because that would be ultimate justice for Serena. But Fred's like, look, it's not going to happen, I promise. I'll do anything in my power to make sure you and your son are protected. And Serena, another disc, goes, what power? What could you possibly do from here? But what's brilliant about this is Fred says, have faith. So this perfectly sets up the big reveal at the end of the episode, with Fred just saying that line, that something was changing here and something was up, which we'll get to. So let's now shift to June's storyline, the main storyline. So Luke gets exactly what happened to Hannah now that June's told him. He's not holding it against June at all. He's very understanding. He gets the situation, but he suggests, no, let's get Hannah and we can still do it from here. So who's the first one up they try talking to is Commander Lawrence. And here comes the funny man, comes on the phone, he's like, hello June, hello Canada. So now I'm nauseated by this character of Commander Lawrence, and it's for a couple reasons. Again, I've said his character should have been done with last season, because now he is literally just a plot bot, and he's convenient for every turn they need in the script. This whole scene was ridiculous to me. It's the one scene I didn't like in the episode. And he's informing June everything she needs to hear, like that Janine is with Aunt Lydia. And what was the most ridiculous part about this was him offering a deal that he would get 10 kids that they got out together, him and June, for Hannah, right? So at that point, you're like, what is this guy's motivation and deal? But also, how do we go from him reading story time to these kids last season in the finale, and then he's willing to trade to bring 10 of them back to Gilead? I don't buy it for a second. At this point, I'm just convinced that this guy is not a real person, and he's the one character in the show that is come through from the script, and it's not the other way around, which is problematic. And it's annoying because this isn't the first time I felt this in a transition of seasons for Lawrence. Like Lawrence, I felt when he got Emily out with June's baby, then he was a real jerk in the beginning of season 3, and this continues on again, where it's like, okay, but then he does something really nice at the end of last season, getting the kids out and reading them story time, and then again he's back to this other Lawrence. He's like, I don't see it either as this complicated character, or oh, he goes both ways. It's like, I don't buy it. I really think he's their way out of a lot of traps in the script, and I'm just really sick of his character at this point. I just need to get that rant out, because that was it for me. But he does nothing, right? And it's also kind of a wasted scene in that sense, too. But at the same time, again, it gets June to get information she needs to hear for the script. So, another thing, in the past, not really this season. I think he's done pretty good, but I've been a little hard on the actor of Luke in his acting. I think one of my issues is he has to react. His character, Luke, has to react a lot, and it's tough because he's not given a lot of lines. It's more of a lot of reacting to June and things around him, and that is obviously tough as an actor because you're acting just through your face. But a lot of times when he's doing that, I feel like I'm watching someone who's acting, right? The key to good acting is you forget you're watching a show, but I always feel like I'm watching someone trying to act. No offense to the actor, because I think here he does an amazing job. I thought this was his best scene ever. And Luke's best scene ever is when he's suggesting to June to go to Nick, because he knows it's the best thing for his daughter. He can put aside that drama with him and Nick, right? That, there's going to be that jealousy and, can you trust June around Nick? It's a lot, right? But he does this perfectly, and he shows that perfectly. And, I like they kept him honest, too. He's like, no, I don't want you to go to Nick, but you should. And he gives a great idea of her to bring Nicole, because, that is something, too. You would want Nick to see that, so he fully does help Hannah. Seeing that baby will bring that out in him. But, I like this whole mystery everyone's having these theories about. Is Nicole really Nick's, or is it Fred Waterford's? Because we now know he can have children, so it's very interesting. And the other thing that was weird to me, I don't know if anyone else was feeling this, I'm sure someone was, but I felt like it was a little too easy how Tuello was just able to get them to see Nick. I feel like we're losing a little bit of Canada and Gilead having this distance between them, and how hard it is to get them to even cooperate with each other. And it's all of a sudden it's boom, we get Lawrence on the phone, and then now all of a sudden it's yeah, we'll get you to see Nick. It's it makes it kind of downplay how hard it was for, them to get to Canada, that it's so easy to kind of just go back. But, again, I can let that slide a bit. And, it's interesting when she says goodbye to Luke, right? And she drives off to go see Nick. You see this, big smile comes on her face. There's, a difference. What I like what they do about Luke, Nick, and Elisabeth Moss in this love triangle they have, because it is one. Either if you like that or not that the show does that, they do. It does actually show that most people in life love more than one person that way, and I think June's clearly that case, and it's a different, excitement she has with Nick. Nick's the little girl type love, it's all this joy, and it's shown through the way Elisabeth Moss has elected twice this season to film her embracing Nick, and to decide to have that big smirk on her face when she's going there. And you saw that in episode 3 when they're on the bridge and she does that 360 shot and that happy music. That happens again here when they kiss and all that sunlight's there and the kid's right there. It's almost like she films it in a dream sequence for June. It is this what if, if it was me, him, and this baby. And I think there's a different type of love there too, because, they fell in love through struggle, through going through hell together. So it does have weight that I don't think you can ever let go. I don't want to get all sappy here. But, that shows too. Another point I wanted to show on that is that even the way she likes to have when June gets there in the snow to Nick, we don't see Nick clear. He's out of focus. And him just saying June, it's showing her state of mind just hearing that. And hearing his voice makes her smile. It's a complete different thing because, when she saw Luke, on the boat, they just kind of hugged and okay. This is woo! She just gets happy. But you see, Nick, the big surprise wasn't the wedding ring. It was that he's got some grays coming in his hair. So Gilead's run a little low on the just for men. And talking about just clever lines here that this script had this episode, I like this one where June's how's it going down in Gilead? And he says, hanging in there. And she goes, poor choice of words. Very clever. And I like when the show can kind of sneak in any bit of humor to just kind of ease the tension. And look, Nick's getting all the brownie points, right? He's put together already stuff for Hannah, knowing June was going to look for her. She loves this. But we find that he has friendlies in that area, which I had talked about. He must have a lot of connection as a commander. So that'll be interesting how much Nick can help from his end. And that we learn she's in Colorado Springs. She's doing good in school. But he's it's going to be impossible to get out. There's guardians everywhere. But not for June. There's always a way with her. But that was the big line, I think. Everyone's going oh, when he's I wish I had run away with you when I had the chance. They have this romantic embrace. And it was important, though, them to show that Nick was good with the baby, right? And that he wasn't, in denial about this baby. And that he got her a doll. And it's funny because he's yeah, Gilead isn't the best selection of stuff. It's just this creepy old doll. But that was the thing. It was he says to June, hey, June, try to be happy. And she's you too. Again, just a moment of levity here. It's just good to see some happiness between our characters we've seen go through so much. But yeah, there's that big twist now. And you can, see that Nick is putting back on a wedding ring. So, who is she? But you see, only Elisabeth Moss can pull off such great, complicated emotions when she's driving off. Again, it's showing you how crazy love can be, right? Where she's got all these emotions. She's got this, giddiness about what just happened. But you could tell there's a little guilt there, too. Because, again, she's married to Luke. You know, she's with Luke at the moment. It's a little different because she's not just with Gilead now with Nick. It's like, you know, she's still seeing Luke again. So, you know, it's interesting. Okay, so but this is where things get great payoff and crazy is Luke is happy seeing photos of Hannah that she got from Nick. It's a nice moment. And it's perfectly shifts because in it, literally, when Tulelo even speaks, the music shifts and it becomes like just complete craziness. And then it shows that all this stuff he did, Tulelo does not care about Hannah. He doesn't care about June getting Hannah. He did this out of guilt because of what he was going to have to tell them about Commander Waterford. And it was just brilliantly written and just the suspense bringing up slowly when he's like, we have a new asset in Toronto now, knows how the system operates, can advise us. And when Luke's just like, okay, who is it? And he says Fred Waterford. It was perfect. This is TV at its best and reveals like this because you're feeling that shock that your main character of June's feeling in that moment. Like, what? But the bigger drop of the hat to June and to us is when she goes, why would he give all this intel? And he goes, in exchange for his freedom, the prosecution has dropped his charges. So it's confirmed. Like, he didn't clear this with them, Tulelo. He just like, yeah, basically Fred's going free. And this is just insane. And then June sees right through him and goes, so my testimony spooked him. You knew that and you used this to flip him. So it really shows Tulelo is that snake we were all kind of theorizing. And you see Tulelo justifies it though as, you know, you let one fish go to get the bigger fish. But this is a great commentary on just politics and society today where, like, any of that kind of thinking has really set us back in history. You know, like, there is no win to letting Fred Waterford type of person free. Nothing good can come from that. These are the type of choices that always keep the world going backwards. And I feel like if I can relate, like, Tulelo is like, to me, anyone who's dealt with, like, an HR rep and they act like they're helping you and they're really not. They don't have any interest in actually helping you. It's like they're for the business. They're for the bigger thing. It's always a bigger thing. It's nothing about you, which always sucks. But I loved that this sound effect, it almost sounds like a crashing wave comes in when June's sitting there and she's getting really angry. And after he's walked away and they're like, June, but she goes into possessed June mode. This is the June we saw last season when she yelled at Natalie for being a rat. And she's like, that man is a rapist. You know what he did to me and all those women. I mean, Elisabeth Moss, again, how many times can I praise her? She's an incredible actress. And I love she never holds back. And I like when she's screaming that I will kill you. I will kill you. I got chills down my spine. This was incredible to me. And what made it and sealed the deal and just like kicked my butt watching it was right when it cuts out on her screaming in full anger and all that rage coming out that was pent up. It's hearing that crashing wave over the credits, you know? Chef's kiss. That's how you get goosebumps leading to a finale at the end of a penultimate episode. And this is why I give different ratings, different episodes, and why I was a little harder on last week's, where a lot of people gave me crap for not liking last week's episode that much and that I was hard on it. But it's like, look, there's always a higher standard to go for. And like I said, the writing last episode, you know, it feels like it's written for Twitter. It's on the nose, where this was like, you know, everything's clicking because the writing is for feel. It's clever, and it's also progressing the story and also bringing in all these character arcs to have conflict, but growth and change. So you are back on the edge of your seat. You're invested. It's entertaining. It's just all working to me here. And props to Elisabeth Moss, because I was hard on her directing last episode, saying that wasn't a lot of changing of shots, wasn't that imaginative. But this was the complete opposite. So I'm thoroughly blown away by that. And if I'm going to give someone a harsher rating when they do, you know, not a great job in my eyes, when they do great, I'm obviously going to praise it. I take every episode and look at it, you know, as its own thing. So this was great to me. I'm giving it a 9.6. It makes me really excited for what's to come now, where I was a little hesitant and worried where they were going to go with this. But I think it's awesome that Janine is her own story now, in a way, with Lydia, and it'll be the perfect pairing also with Esther. I want to see more of her, clearly, but I like that this is like bringing a little more heightened tension to June's story in Canada now that we're ramping this up. Like, what is going to happen here with Fred Waterford? I'm really excited to see what's going to go down in the finale. Let me know what you thought of it down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment and try to respond to as many as I can. If you love what I do here, you know, please subscribe. It helps me in so many ways you have no idea. You can also check me out on TikTok now. I do shorter reviews there, and Instagram Reels, and even some YouTube Shorts you'll see here. But if you really, really like it, I'd love any support I can get. You can become a member today. There's 3 different tiers. You get exclusive perks, but it'll really help me to do this full time one day and be able to review more stuff for you guys to enjoy. Thank you so much for watching me, and I'll see you next time.